In recent years, I've been absolutely loving the retro shooters that have been popping up. There's lots of variety to them, a focus on fun first, and a rekindling of love for these throwbacks. However, sometimes these thrill rides, while fun, come with their own issues. What's going on, everyone? I'm Invader, and welcome to my review for Forgive Me Father for the Xbox Series consoles, but it's also available for PlayStation and PC. It's developed by Studio Byte Barrel and published by 1C Publishing. I bought it for roughly about $36 Canadian. Forgive Me Father is best described as a grim-dark retro shooter, bringing together Lovecraftian lore and retro boomer shooter ideals. Is this colorful Cthulhu shooter worth your time? Well, let's find out. Starting off with the plotline, the game is set during the 1920s. You have two protagonists to choose from, the priest or the journalist, though the priest seems to be more of the default choice. Either way, you get a letter from your cousin to investigate what the heck is going on in this small town of Pestisville. Once starting the game, you'll notice clues and messages left throughout the levels, giving story and context to what's been happening. And soon you'll be thrust into hordes of various abominations thrown your way. The game is a first-person shooter. Your adventure spans across a large variety of levels, numbering about 32, including boss fights. You have a large and very impressive arsenal of weapons to choose from your standard pistols, shotguns, and machine guns, to some very creative eldritch fused weapons. Speaking of which, the game offers a pretty neat skill tree. As you progress and earn points for completing levels, you can upgrade your weapons and abilities. Granted, you have to be selective with your choices because you only get so many to place. Both the priest and the journalist have unique abilities at their disposal. The priest has a bunch of really useful health buffing abilities, while the journalist has some more offensive ones. Progressing through levels is typical of this game genre. You need to find various colored keys in order to access new areas to progress. Speaking of levels, the majority of them are very short. There are, however, exceptions, but don't expect a lot of deep exploration, though there are some nice hidden secrets that are tucked away for those looking. I will say that one of the things that really stuck out to me towards the end of playing this game was the weapons. Again, you really do feel like a badass with them, and there are ways of altering them, tweaking them to your preferences. The enemies you face off start off pretty standard fare, but then quickly morph into more wild and super creative entities. Some appearing as mutilated World War I soldiers, or just other creatures, something out of like a nightmare or a horror movie. You will definitely not get bored shooting at these hordes of enemies. As well, boss fights present some interesting encounters. I did really enjoy the Aziz boss fight, while Catharsis, for example, was extremely generic, so kinda hit or miss that way. With that said though, I did have a bunch of issues during my playtime. As enjoyable as the gameplay loop is, it's extremely frustrating when you're stuck on a level or a boss fight and just can't progress. I experienced this a few times, most notably against the big ugly fish boss. The boss's health bar wouldn't go down even after 5 minutes of play. Eventually, it did get corrected, but I had to go back to it so many times before that. Please, Byte Barrel, patch this sucker up. It's not a very nice experience. Graphics-wise, the game actually looks really cool. It's meant to look like a comic book, and it's done very well in that regard. While simple, the enemies are very well animated, and the colors really pop out. The environments, I would say, are a bit hit or miss, but there are definitely ones that stand out more than others, that have nice colors and details going on. Is this the best looking game around? No, it really isn't. But it does have a focused style going for it, and I have to say that I'm a big fan of that retro comic book look. Moving over to audio, and overall it's pretty decent. It interchanges between eerie themes to heavy metal rock music quite often. When you're in the middle of a fight, the music kicks in and it feels just really wicked, driving up your adrenaline to the next level. The weapon sounds are also very good. I noticed that everything from shotguns, revolvers, machine guns, and even some of the more outlandish weapons have a really nice oomph to them. I really appreciate having that extra audio weight in there, as it gives you more of an actual feeling that you have those weapons in your hand. But yeah, overall the audio is a blast to listen to throughout the game. As far as game length goes, I spent roughly 13 hours or so with the game, completing it with the priest and spending a few hours with the journalist. Granted, some of that time was tied up trying to progress through the big ugly fish boss fight, that issue I was discussing earlier, along with some of the other ones I encountered during the game. Now to summarize the good and bad aspects of the game that I discussed, starting off with the good. It has a very interesting, well done comic book art styling to it. As well, I enjoyed its take on the Cthulhu mythos. The audio is great, from its heavy metal music to the weapon sounds. The weapons and abilities are very useful, fun, and quite creative. The enemies and bosses are fun to fight against, with a few exceptions. And there are a bunch of hidden secrets strewn throughout the levels. Moving over to the bad, and while the game does look good, there are some graphical issues throughout the levels, some frame rate issues, definitely some stuttering, so that needs to be patched up. A lot of the levels are relatively quick to complete and are short. Boss number 3, Big Ugly Fish, desperately needs a patch. There's also a big issue with enemies spawning in after you die, so even after you completely wipe out a room or a level, they can spawn right back in, even with the save from before. There's also issues for achievements not being able to be earned. I beat the game, I beat Cthulhu, and there was no achievement popping up. Boss number 4, glitch, nothing popped up. Then I replayed the level again and it popped up, but it happened on a few occasions and it's just really annoying and a big time waster. I have a real soft spot for Forgive Me Father. The gameplay is a lot of fun, with a great selection of weapons and upgrades. As well, there's a variety of enemies to mow through during your playthrough. But with that being said, there are a lot of issues and annoyances with it. Progression glitches are a real big one, along with achievements not activating. The game has a lot of character, but unfortunately there's a lot that leaves to be desired. As of right now, I can't recommend it unless of course the developer updates and fixes a majority of the glaring issues. Overall, I give Forgive Me Father a score of 5.5 out of 10. So what do you guys think of the game? Is this something that you'd check out? Or are you willing to wait a bit for it? Let me know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review, then please consider leaving a like, sharing it out, and of course subbing on over to the channel. Until next time guys, Invader, out.